Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patron, Thomas A. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. So, this new Tesla paint color will only be available on the Model S and X vehicles. However, it will be available globally, so not just in Giga Berlin like the Midnight Cherry Red. Now, as far as what the actual color is, I have seen the picture. I unfortunately cannot share it, and I don't want to steal Tesla's thunder on this one totally, but I'll just say it's a variant of the Midnight Cherry Red that we've seen out of Giga Berlin. There have been a few vehicles already produced in this color. As I said, I've seen it with my own eyes. So in terms of the timeline, I know some of these early builds are going overseas, so it could be a few weeks or even months until we see and hear about this new color, but just wanted to let you guys know it's coming, and I personally think it's really nice. Kind of an odd report here unless I'm misreading it, but Reuters is saying that Indonesia is looking to offer new EV incentives that will start on March 20th, this according to Luhut Panjaitan. But then they go on to say this will cover 35,900 electric cars. So is that per manufacturer? Is that the entire program? They don't say. They did not disclose the budget, and this $457 is actually for electric motorcycles, so I don't think that applies to the electric cars. Luhut said, "We're finalizing negotiations with two big global car producers. We hope this new policy will make our position much stronger than before." And regarding Tesla, Luhut said he plans to talk with them in the coming days. Luhut is not worried about Giga Mexico, saying this factory will focus on the North American market, and he says that Tesla has a separate commitment to Asia. And no surprise for anybody to be eligible for these new EV incentives, they have to have a plant in Indonesia and meet certain local requirements. From Eeyore, who works at S3 Partners, he's telling us that since 2010, people that have shorted Tesla stock have lost cumulatively over $56 billion. The only year that Tesla shorts have been profitable was last year, 2022, and so far this year, they're down $6.8 billion. So how's that saying go? Don't bet against Elon Musk? I think that's a decent guiding principle. Teslarati wrote this article about Tesla's resale value for 2023 and some of these awards, but I think they made a mistake. They said no electric vehicles were recognized within Kelley Blue Book's top 10. However, when you go to the source, which I always recommend, you can see best resale value top 10 for 2023, and you scroll down and you see tied for second place is the Tesla Model X. As far as I know, that's an electric vehicle. So William is right that most of these are ICE vehicles, but not all of them. KBB has the Model S retaining 57% of its original value after a 5-year holding period, which is right in line with the F-150 Lightning. And for context, the Model X, which was tied for second place, retains 66% of its value. These values are calculated by analysts that review the output from statistical models built upon millions of transactions. For context, the Chevy Bolt came in about 41.5%, the Mustang Mach-E 41%. The problem with these numbers is they will change over time. As Tesla lowers prices, it's of course going to lower the price for the used vehicle market. So there's a lot of factors at play, but it's a good rule of thumb. This data is pretty confusing though. The Model 3 and the Model Y are nowhere to be found. Then they have this category, best resale value for trucks, EVs, and the minivan, listing all of these EVs with the Chevy Bolt at 41% on the list. But as you can see, no Model Y, no Model 3. We have Jörg Steinbach, Brandenburg's economic minister, flying into Giga Austin to meet with Marlene Maynard, who is an employee of Giga Berlin as far as I know, and Rohan Patel, who is Tesla's policy advisor. He said it was important to give Tesla reassurance of the ongoing support of the Brandenburg government for the potential expansion of Giga Berlin. You can read into this many different ways, one of which would be that Tesla started to lean away from expanding more or faster at Giga Berlin, and of course, Jörg didn't want that to happen. If that's the case, maybe they should drop some of that red tape over there in Brandenburg. Hopefully they got back on the same page and are now going to charge ahead in Giga Berlin, because you don't want to set up shop and then not be able to maximize the space or that location. I believe it's the same Marlene Maynard who's an employee of Giga Berlin, and she was the one that spoke about the fire that happened last year at Giga Berlin. Everybody prepare yourself for an upcoming Elon Musk documentary, but this one will lean more hit piece than anything else. This project will be driven by Alex Gibney, more on him in a second, but on Monday he said he was hugely excited about tackling Musk on film. Alex Gibney is not a nobody, even if you've never heard of him. He was nominated for an Oscar in 2006 and he won one in 2008 for his documentary Taxi to the Dark Side. But let's have a look at a few of Alex Gibney's tweets. He quote tweeted a tweet about a Model Y saying the Polestar 2 is a much better option. Sporty, comfortable, dashboard, touchscreen, many controls, yada yada. Bonus, when you buy one, you're not giving your money to Elon Musk. Here's another. In this case, your attempt at engaging in cognitive empathy has turned you into Elon's shill. He has no noble mission and he is not sincere. He wants Twitter to be his pyramid, and so it may be. How about one more? I was never interested in Madoff because he was just a crook. Holmes was more interesting because, like Musk or those at Enron, she wanted to imagine herself to be a hero even as she knew she was a fraud. Just casually looping Elon into a group that includes people at Enron and other frauds. As if we needed any more confirmation in response to the Doge designer, Elon said, "It's a hit piece." Here we have the Technikens channel doing the Moose test, which is just an agility test for the Tesla Model 3 standard range. So as you can see in this video, it handles it very well. This was at 72 kilometers per hour, which is about 44 miles per hour. Just testing the evasiveness and the handling and the balance of the vehicle. No cones knocked down, good job. Maybe you need some context, so let's watch this Jeep Grand Cherokee. That was years ago though, so let's watch a Mustang Mach-E from last year. And how did the Model Y do? No surprise, but very well. No cones down.
The Model Y is much better. The Mustang, 68 kilometers an hour, that's maximum. The Model Y, 75. Completely different behavior. That's really good. That's really bad.
Tesla has been granted a new wheel patent that is presumably for the Cybertruck, as this is that cap design that we've all seen. This was filed back in November of 2019, and it's really just for the design of a vehicle wheel as shown in these images. There's honestly not much in here, and there's no guarantee that Tesla uses this design, but it'll be below if you want to check it out. The Kilowatts told us in a San Francisco showroom the new Model S is on display with a wheel. I'll be honest, I have not had the pleasure of using the yoke, but this now looks weird to me for whatever reason. And you can see there are still no stalks, and yes, there are still these capacitive buttons. Either way though, it's great to have these options available, and let me know which do you prefer. The Kilowatts also pointed out this nice little new feature, and anybody that has kids, I think you'll know exactly what this is. This was the prior version where you had to pull that up and hold it up, and this is the new version. You just push it up and it stays up and out of the way. Good news for all of the FSD beta folks out there, 11.3.1 has now gone out to an internal group of employee testers, which is a positive sign for a wider rollout sometime in the future. And yes, this latest version does have a new feature called OTA recall, so hopefully Tesla has worked through some of the changes they needed to make, and they can now roll out FSD to both new users and updates to the existing fleet as well. However, it still could be a few weeks before they roll this out to a wider audience. On Giga Mexico, Tesla is close to receiving its final permits, which will allow the factory construction to begin. Once these permits are done, they can start hopefully this very month in March. Honestly, the reporting on this has been all over the map. Some people are saying breaking ground in 3 months. Now this seems to imply that they could start as soon as this month if they get the permits this month. Either way though, most of the reporting has said that sometime next year, the first cars will roll off the line. Subsequent phases of Giga Mexico could involve making components like chips and batteries. All I will say for now is, does the Tesla community have a drone pilot for this new factory construction? We need to find one ASAP. The latest weekly insured unit data, 13,266. Here's that data plugged into the table, and if you want to compare to week 9 back in quarter 4, that figure was 11,670. And yes, this number was better than expectations. You can skip this part if you follow me on Twitter, but for those who don't, Tesla's wholesale sales in China for January and February last year, 116.3 thousand. Same months for this year, 140.5 thousand, up 21%. The wholesale sales of passenger cars in China, the overall auto market for the same time frame this year, is down 16% year over year. So the overall auto market in China has slowed so far this year. Meanwhile, Tesla is still managing to grow its sales year over year in a very challenging environment. Don't get lost in the weekly data. Even though, yes, this week it was actually good. All of that data came from this article that will be below. Market Maven asked a good question: how does Q4 look in comparison to Q1? And this was my response. Again, I think it's good context. Yes, we're behind schedule, but I think the comparison in general is a bad one to make. The NEV incentives went away in Q1. Q1 historically is slower than Q4 for the auto market. Q1 this time includes the Chinese holiday shutdown. It also includes the Model 3 production shutdown. Consumers are now waiting for more price cuts. So you get the picture why the Q1 over Q4 comparison is not a good one to make in my book. Here's the weekly data in bar chart form for my visual learners. As you can see, we're on a nice uptrend over the past few weeks after the Chinese holiday and the Model 3 shutdown, so we'll see if Tesla can sustain this throughout the rest of quarter 1. This 45.4 thousand number does include a few days for March, so keep that in mind. That's why this number is a bit lower to get to this number that we already got. That's official. What I wanted to show you, this is the number of domestic deliveries for Tesla China domestically in Q4. This is where we're at so far for retail or domestic sales. So if Tesla can do another 50,000 domestic sales throughout the rest of the 3.5 weeks in the quarter, which is about 14,300 per week, that would be an all-time record quarter for domestic sales in China. Personally, I don't think they're going to hit that, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. And as we just talked about, even flat or somewhere close to Q4 numbers would be a very good sign and a win for Tesla in my book when it comes to domestic demand in China. And I can't quite put a finger on it just yet from a few anecdotes here and there, but something to keep an eye on into the future, the next few years, will be the reliability of all of these BYD vehicles. Not just from a battery pack standpoint, but from a rust standpoint, as pointed out by the Electric Viking, Matt Pocious, and a few others. Rivian is looking to raise $1.3 billion in cash by selling some convertible notes. Now, at the end of last year, they had about $12 billion in cash on hand, which should last them maybe for the next 2 years. But Rivian is saying this will be to help launch the R2 line of smaller Rivian vehicles that's expected in 2026. These convertible notes will qualify as green bonds, meaning that Rivian will pay less in an interest or a coupon payment, but those details have not yet been disclosed. The specs for the 2024 Hyundai Kona Electric have been released, and this EV version is set to hit the United States by the end of this year. This car will have a heads-up display as well as two 12.3-inch display screens, one ahead of the driver and then one more central for your infotainment functions. The US version is set to have a 65.4 kilowatt hour battery pack and a single front motor. The expected EPA range of that vehicle would be in the neighborhood of 260 miles. As you can see, the charge port is on the front of the vehicle, and this vehicle is set to offer vehicle-to-load charging. And I just wanted to drop this company UFODrive on your radar in case you were not familiar. It's essentially a contactless way of renting an electric vehicle all through an app, and it's supposed to be a pretty seamless process. They debuted last year in San Francisco. They have set up shop in Miami, and then these cities, New York, Boston, LA, Austin, and Chicago, also have some UFO drives as well. But more on this in the future. You can find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Please like the video if you did. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.